Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:07, isn't it now? Good morning. Monday morning here in the nation's capital, and it's the 30th day of June. How did that happen, Julie Gunlock? What have you done? What have you done with the month of June? You can't do that. Good Lord. It's insane how quickly time is flying by. As of tomorrow, we will be halfway through 2025, and this coming on the heels of quite possibly the most successful week of Trump's presidency, if not any presidency in modern history. We'll get through all of the things we're trying to catch up on. Also, plenty to discuss on the world stage coming up at 6:05. Taylor Hathorn will join us. She's a fellow with the Center for American Safety and Security at Independent Women's Forum. I love those long titles. Talk about the latest in Iran. At 7:05, Joe DeGeneva. 7:35, Ismail Royer, Director of Islam and Religious Freedom of the Religious Freedom Institute in D.C., part of that Supreme Court decision on Friday validating parents' rights. What an incredible coalition that was of Muslim parents, Orthodox Jewish parents, Orthodox Christian parents, good old regular Christian parents. You know, everyone left in Montgomery County who's not a crazy Democrat. 8:05, Alex Sawyer, Washington Times, and then at 8:35, Stuart Whitson, your brand new nominee for the Republican Party for that special election in the 11th Congressional District. He joined us Friday, Julie, to introduce himself to voters. The election was Saturday, and he emerged victorious. So he will be coming back here to tell us how he's going to win. Can you imagine a Republican winning that race?
Oh, my gosh. It would be incredible.
It would be great. It would be great. So there you go. That's a full slate starting at 6:05 here with guests all lined up to talk to everybody here. What a weekend this was in Washington, D.C. If you follow the news, if you're working on Capitol Hill, you were locked in to the Senate there as they had their vote on the reconciliation package, or at least moving it the next step forward. Did you see how Chuck Schumer forced the staff and the clerk to read the entire bill overnight?
Oh, yeah.
Something that they never did. And there was no one in the Senate chamber. That was, I mean, it's kind of exploitive of the staff, isn't it? To make them do that for for show.
And that's what it was for. It was it was a delay tactic.
Yeah.
Completely. And
but I don't know. It's
making
just,
these people read this thing.
Right. But it was just so, you do our bidding. Go. I mean, if they really wanted, I mean, listen, I'm all for theater. Me and my jazz hands. I mean, that's fine.
Yes.
But if the Democrats really wanted this theatrical moment where it's like, we're going to read you all the bill. By the way, where were you on Obamacare? You literally said pass it, and then we can learn what's in it.
Right.
But you want to read the bill for whatever your delay tactic is or whatever, then they should have done it. They could have done it as a tag team.
That's
Each
right.
Democrat could have read, 100 pages of it or whatever.
Yeah.
But instead, they forced the poor staffers to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. It is pretty brutal. And again, the parliamentarian shop is small. It's not a large shop. So You're right. They could have tag teamed, but instead they decided to get their beauty sleep, Larry, I guess, right?
That was rude. That was obnoxious, but it is moving forward. Right, barely moving forward, although this version, we shall see whether the House will take it up or not. But if you're into the news, there was plenty to focus on there with regard to the reconciliation package moving. Tom Tillis, by the way, he decides.
Oh my gosh, this weekend was crazy.
Tom Tillis decides he's going to vote against it and defy Donald Trump, and then 12 hours later says, "Oh, by the way, I'm also not running." Not running for re-election. It's like, well, that's probably good because, boy, were you going to get primaried.
Yes.
When Lisa Murkowski is a more reliable vote than Tom Tillis, things have turned for Mr. Tillis, and he's looking for his gig on CNN or NBC News or something. Who God knows what.
Yeah.
So you had that going on. Plus, you had the fallout of the Supreme Court decisions. All those decisions started coming out at 10 a.m. on Friday after we came off the air. But just absolute landmark decisions, all seemingly going in the right direction. The redistricting one in Louisiana didn't seem to really get they sort of punted on that one. But parents' rights affirmed in terms of opting out. And we talked about how it affected here in Montgomery County, Maryland. I always joke about how Montgomery County is like California without the palm trees. State of California did this for the entire state, not just one county school district.
Yeah.
The entire state, this was done like 5 years ago, I want to say, where LGBTQ-ish content was just sort of permeated throughout the curriculum. Math problems had to do with, you have 10 friends who are transitioning, and 8 of them are transitioning this way. The story problem in math is related to gender identity.
Everything. Yeah,
and parents had no options; they had no rights.
But it was more over the last 5 years, Larry. Things have become so radical where they were teaching children that you could be born in the wrong body, that your sex is chosen by a doctor, not determined by biology. That really, really graphic instructions on particular sexual preferences and acts. And visuals offered to children. Larry, this has only happened in the last 5 years that this radicalism happened, and it's all it really is all connected. I'm not kidding. To George Floyd and COVID, it was this transformational time in this country where the LGBTQ radical activists took advantage and said, "This is our time to insert really gross stuff into the sex ed curriculum." And of course, parents wanted to opt out, and then these partners with these radicals, these school boards in these dark blue areas decided, nope, you're not allowed to do that. And the teachers union, you're not allowed to do that.
And Supreme Court said, no, parents still have a say in how their children are raised. Which, liberals are literally against that idea. Liberals are literally against it.
Yes.
But then the biggest decision had to do with Supreme Court reining in all the activist district judges who were doing these nationwide injunctions on the president's actions. And they said, of course not. That's contrary to the Constitution. By the way, backstory there, I'm sort of giving you a rundown of all the stories we're going to get through this morning, hopefully. But just to sort of lay out what the president's week was like, he got that win. He got the SCOTUS win on federal district judges. And he had Amy Coney Barrett, his nominee, smacked down publicly in that decision. I keep wanting to call her Karine Jean-Pierre, Ketanji Brown Jackson.
Oh, that's so funny.
Amy Coney Barrett literally said, "Oh, you might want to look into Marbury versus Madison." In other words, that's literally the first case lawyers learn when they take con law.
Right.
And she said, it's right there in Marbury versus Madison in terms of what the court's powers are. It was scathing, this decision, and the way she went after her own fellow justice. It was hilarious. Plus, the stock market hit a record high. If you've got a mutual fund that's just tracking the S&P 500, you're doing better than like 80% of stock traders right now in New York. And this is, again, during the Trump presidency when we were told his flirtation with tariffs and using tariffs as a weapon and all these other things that he's doing, cutting federal spending and all that. Well, that's going to be a disaster for the market. Okay, you just hit a high in the S&P 500, a record, just 200 days into the presidency. Plus, the ceasefire everyone said the ceasefire between Israel and Iran was, made out of paper and it was going to fall apart. No, it's holding. It's 100% holding. And the next round of intelligence estimates that have come in has said, Iran's nuclear program has been destroyed. Byron York has a great breakdown on that and how that early assessment that got leaked was a complete and total con job. Meant to stifle the president's good news. By the way, speaking of good news, he negotiated a peace deal between two warring countries in Africa. The Rwandan massacre from 30 years ago that the Democrats allowed to happen. Bill Clinton even admits it's one of the greatest shames of his presidency that a genocide occurred in the Congolese area. We had a peace deal signed with Secretary of State Marco Rubio overseeing it. Media barely pays attention to that. Why are they so racist? Yeah. But that's amazing. Plus, gas is now at a 4-year low, just as Trump promised. Seriously, one of the greatest weeks any president has enjoyed.
Well, and one indicator, Larry, of how good things are going is the absolute panic over on MSNBC. It is. They really need some Xanax over there because it was they were extra this weekend, Larry. Extra.
Well, and hilariously, what you're seeing is people on MSNBC and NBC in general, and wherever you look in the media, they're not paying any attention to. Right, rather than report good news and good developments, instead they're like, "Oh, about this Zohran Ramandi. I mean, Mandami. This is great. He'll win. He's got the message. He's got the way to do." So they're all looking at the new shiny thing, the communist who now is pretending to be a man of the people and running there. All right, so look at, I'm already way behind.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
It's not all great news. We had a horrible event last night, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, where it appears as though, we're still getting more information here, but it appears as though a person set a brush fire to attract firefighters and first responders to an area there in Idaho, and then he had positioned himself as a sniper, and he started firing on the firefighters, shooting at them. 2 firefighters were murdered in this incident. Others were injured. It was a horrible thing, and the fire is still burning, by the way. But it's just an awful thing. And this isn't like a sort of beautiful, idyllic part of the country, part of Idaho.
My father grew up there in that area, and it is absolute heaven. It is absolutely beautiful. I was in that area just a couple of years ago giving a speech, and, I realized I sort of had one of those, why do I live where I live moments, because it really is so gorgeous. But this is very strange and sad. Lots of details. My goodness, there was lots of, guessing going on in the news last night, because it really is one of those situations, like it just makes zero sense. But it does look like, they said this person, there was even some questions about whether it was more than one person. It appears to be one person. It
appears one person. By the way, that person has been neutralized, as they say. He's been found dead. They don't have many more details about it, but he was a sniper who killed these 2 firefighters and injured one other. There was a manhunt. In fact, at one point, there was a bizarre scene where this press conference was taking place with the sheriff talking to the media and said, we're actively under fire now. You could actually hear shots ringing out while he was giving the press conference. And at one point, they asked if there was any retired military who were snipers, if they could come to the area to help and maybe, take this guy out if they saw them. And that apparently is what happened. Although we don't have the details, he could have taken his own life. I don't see it, at least in this latest update. We'll try to get that. And meanwhile, this wildfire that he started specifically for the purpose of ambushing these firefighters continues to burn. 20 acres already damaged. We'll give you updates as the morning develops, as they've been fighting it all night. But it's once again an indication of how incredible our first responders are when they have to deal with stuff like this. In addition to the dangerous job they already have.
Yeah, it's just terrible. And also just, an unlikely place. Again, it's beautiful and idyllic there, and it's just such a tragedy. It's so sad. And again, they were completely ambushed, according to this. These firefighters went there to put out this fire, and it's a terrible. Yeah,
terrible these are the people who run toward danger. They run toward the fire as everyone else flees for their own safety. They're the ones who go and do the dangerous job to keep us safe. And then you've got this maniac, this evil individual. The last thing you're thinking as you're a firefighter going to respond to a brush fire is that you then are going to have to take, shots, that you're going to be under fire from somebody trying to kill you, especially in Idaho. Maybe in New York that makes sense. But not in a place. Well,
like there is a very funny sort of adversarial relationship between police and firefighters that's been going on. It's actually very funny.
A little rivalry, like Army versus Navy.
Exactly. Yeah. But honestly, firefighters often do have to go into very dangerous areas that need to be secured by the police beforehand, and obviously that happens a lot in urban areas. But certainly putting out some sort of a fire in a forested area. And again, this was a setup to kill these firefighters. It's absolutely horrendous.
When I was a kid, my dad told me when I was little, because little boys always are amazed by cops and firefighters whenever they see them on the street or you're walking past them, and he says, go, always say hi, and always thank them, and always, and I still do. I still do. If I'm walking around and there's a cop there, I said, "Hey, how's it going? Thanks for being there." And this is just another reason why they deserve that kind of credit and that kind of love from the public.
Really quick, Larry. One quick note: there is a third firefighter in surgery, so 2 are dead, several injured, but one is actually. As of last night, he was in surgery. So again, still some pretty serious victims.
If you're the praying type and you start your day with a prayer, add that firefighter and his family, all of them, to your prayers. It's 5:23.
Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:37. Thanks so much for tuning in this morning. Coming up at 6:05, Taylor Hathorn will join us from IWF, talk about the latest in Iran, which we'll get to in a moment here as well. 7:05, Joe DeGenevo will join us to round out all those Supreme Court rulings on Friday. What a time to be alive. 7:35, Ismail Royer of the Islamic and Religious Freedom Institute talk about that huge win for all people of faith in Montgomery County and around the country from the Supreme Court on Friday. 8:05, Alex Sawyer, legal reporter for the Washington Times. And then at 8:35, Stuart Whitson. He's your brand new Republican nominee for the 11th Congressional District. He won that special primary on Saturday, and you'll hear him make his case for your vote and tell us how he's going to win this thing. If a Republican is ever going to win Virginia 11, this is the time. You've got a special election, special ballot, special turnout. There's just one race on the ballot. You're not going to get any coattails from the governor's race or from the presidential race or any other mitigating factors, and it's all about excitement, energy, and turnout versus the power of the unions and money and the Democrat establishment. This is the time. This is the time. It'll be a great opportunity, Julie Gunlock. I know you're excited about it.
Very excited, of course. Good morning.
We'll talk to Stuart Whitson. He's a good man and a good nominee as well. So, the latest out of Iran, so much to discuss. Byron York has a great article, by the way, that I commend to you to read, as always, from Byron. But this time sort of breaking down that leak, how the leak happened, why the leak happened, and how completely erroneous it was, as we've had further intelligence agencies reveal, the damage was incredibly extensive, and the military deserves all the props, as does the commander-in-chief. But, of course, that's the reason for the leak, was to keep Donald Trump from getting any kind of credit for the effort that was made there that no other president had done before that. He was also asked, by the way, by Maria Bartiromo about reports that the uranium had been removed, the enriched uranium had been removed. There's two answers to that. The first is, do you have any idea what kind of unbelievable operation that would be to go down into this bunker to remove that uranium, knowing that the bomb could drop any second now? You know, I mean, there was no... as soon as Trump started talking about, we might have to do this, at that moment, it's game on, right? So you start taking it out, you're going to go down a 300-foot shaft and start loading uranium into a, load it onto a forklift as that bomb can drop any second, number one. But number two, Trump made a really good point. They never thought we could do this. They didn't realize that's the reason they built it down there. They thought they were safe. They never thought they'd need to take the uranium out because they thought it was a fantasy that we would ever be able to do what we were able to do. And so don't believe any of that stuff.
Boy, Larry, I mean, they were so excited from that first report. That's the thing.
They were excited that we had failed.
Yes, and I mean, they didn't give it 10 minutes. They reported that first report, first out, and then they all followed suit. I mean, Pete Hegseth, was pretty angry about it, and at that press conference, and there's a reason why. He knew exactly that this was an early report, that maybe give it 10 minutes, folks, but no, they ran with it. It was a failure. Trump failed.
Hold on to your hat, because here's UNN getting very excited now again, because the head of the UN nuclear watchdog said that the strikes fell short of causing total damage to the nuclear program. So there you go. CNN is excited. They're hanging their hat on this one again. Said that they could start enriching uranium in a matter of months. Okay, well, so first of all, just so you know, you could make the argument that Iran has put in place the plans to start enriching uranium already, because that's what they want to do. So, of course, they're going to begin to rebuild. How quickly they can get their centrifuges up and running or acquire new centrifuges from North Korea or God knows where, that doesn't mean it wasn't damaged. It means, of course, they're going to – we all knew. It's not like Iran was going to say, oh, okay, fine, you got us. We're going to stop now.
Yeah.
No, of course they're going to continue to enrich uranium
because they're madmen.
That's exactly. As Iran's UN's ambassador said, Iran's nuclear enrichment will never stop. That's what he said. That's their ambassador to the United Nations.
Right. That's right.
Said it's an inalienable right. He's using our language from our Declaration of Independence. He said it is their inalienable right to continue to enrich uranium to build nuclear weapons.
Yeah, and while Elie Mystal and the nutters over at MSNBC might sort of carry that argument, it's our human right to, an oil-rich country like that. Yes, let's develop for a civilian nuclear program. Sure. But they're providing us the talking points of why it's so necessary to go in there and destroy it. That's exactly why we need to destroy it.
Listen, a lot of people, we joke in D.C. saying a lot of people are talking about, but in this case, there really are a lot of people talking about whether Donald Trump, through his efforts here and his efforts in the war in Africa and various other efforts, should be discussed as potentially the recipient of a Nobel Peace Prize. And before you sort of chuckle about that, don't forget Barack Obama was given a Nobel Peace Prize before he actually did anything. Literally, before he was sworn in as president.
That's right.
So this is a legitimate discussion, and something just happened, a big announcement out of Iran that actually puts Donald Trump in a very exclusive club, a club that includes many people who have, in fact, won Nobel Peace Prizes. I'll tell you exactly what that is in a moment. It's 5:43.
WMAL, making sense of party politics, because somebody's got to hold their feet to the fire. Download the WMAL app to stream us for free.
There is new satellite imagery now showing ongoing activity at the Fordo nuclear complex after those airstrikes. It seems like they're trying to clean up the mess here. Have you seen my car keys? Evidence of significant damage to those tunnels, access roads to the underground uranium enrichment site. As I said, there was an announcement made out of Tehran that puts Donald Trump, the President of the United States, the person who ordered those nuclear facilities to be destroyed, into a very exclusive club, and a club that could actually help make the case for why he should get a Nobel Peace Prize. Donald Trump is now the target of a fatwa. Fatwa.
It made you sneeze.
It did. It made me sneeze. It makes you nervous, doesn't it? The Grand Ayatollah, Makarem Shirazi. I don't know. What is the?
You
is there like a?
You always try to put an accent with it. Just say it normal.
Well, that is normal.
No, that wasn't normal.
If you speak Persian.
You don't speak Persian.
He is one of the most senior clerics in the Qom, and he has issued a ruling saying that the threats against Khamenei by President Trump and others amount to a war against Islam. Remaining silent is haram, he says. And well, that's what he said. He didn't say
I should not
haram.
be laughing. This is a very serious thing.
Is it, though? And Muslims must respond with severe punishment. Okay, so here, do you want me to read you the fatwa?
If you do it normal.
It's like saying Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice.
Please
it's like
just don't do it in that accent. Just please
in the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful, it is clear that threatening the leader of the Islamic world as well as the esteemed sources of emulation is a war against Islam. According to the Quranic verse, indeed the penalty for those who wage war against God and his messenger. This act carries a severe punishment. Strengthening the front of Muslims in the unity of Islamic ranks is an obligation. I consider it haram to remain silent in the face of such threats. That means forbidden, by the way. Haram is forbidden.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It is necessary for Muslims around the world to strongly condemn these threats and to take appropriate and united action. May God preserve the Islamic community and the evil of enemies under the protection of Imam and the age. May God hasten his reappearance and reward the righteous defenders. So there you go. That's the fatwa.
That's good.
Meanwhile, President Trump went golfing. He, it's like, really? Dude, seriously. I had to deal with Nancy Pelosi in the first term. I got the media. I got CNN. I got Jake Tapper. I had Jimmy. You really think I'm going to worry about a fatwa
feels like
from
Joan
you people?
Rivers moment. Calm down.
Calm down.
Pretty calm down.
And they said the enrichment is their inalienable right, and so they're going to keep going. And so the fatwa is there. And I think, so here's the deal. If you deserve a Nobel Peace Prize or not, part of the calculation, I believe, that they take into account there, the committee, is if you pissed off all the right people. And I think, clearly, he's got the, when they're issuing fatwas on you, it means you're doing something right.
It's got a good record.
Exactly. Also, did you see this video of Iranian women holding up their babies with little scarves around their heads and basically volunteering them to be martyrs for the cause? It's all very performative. In fact, they put a little mustache.
I don't think it is performative. I think they actually would hand their children over. Honestly, there is a sickness in that culture.
Did you see, though, that they put a little mustache on one of the babies?
Yeah, it's pretty cute, but it's kind of weird.
Pretending that
I don't know how to feel about this.
I don't mean to laugh about it, although
it's pretty funny.
We're currently the CNN. Frederick Pleitgen was at the ceremony where hundreds of women held up their babies into the air to show they're willing to offer them up as martyrs to Iran. We're currently at an event where hundreds of women holding up their babies in the air.
I wonder how that would do on Lindsay Fifield. Yeah, Lindsay's always tweeting. This is our friend Lindsay, always tweeting about the moms group that she's part of in Northern Virginia and how crazy they are.
Yeah.
I wonder how they would react to this kind of thing.
Oh, liberal mothers in Northern Virginia on a regular basis hold up their babies as martyrs for the transgender religion. The climate religion. It's like they're willing to martyr their children for the cause. It's a sickness on the left.
Yes.
Well, there you go. It's like they all have one thing in common. They hate America. They hate capitalism. Although they hate it from the driver's seat of their Mercedes and from their air-conditioned,
that's right,
4,000 square foot McMansion in the suburbs. But that's okay. There was talk of a meeting with Iran this week. That seems to no longer be happening. The White House said no meeting is currently scheduled with the people who just put a fatwa on Donald Trump. It's 5:52.